Good morning, YouTube. Goal today is to get this in primer. I'm going around and just board sanding everything that is a little rough. Morning, guys. Afternoon for me. Anyway, I pressed on with this Chrysler. I got this door all sanded down good. I just need a little final coat. The hood, I filed it down pretty good. Put some rust converter on it. Filled it with my Bondo. And if you can see right in here, I got a low spot right there. This is a little low right in here. And I cut a couple little hoopity-doos, but this is not perfectly straight. And I'm hitting a high right there. Now I'm going to show you something to do with glazing putty. This is this USC icing. And I'm going to just find a place here on the car. Just not getting highs or lows. I'll just put me a dab there. And I'm just going to use this hood as a mixing board. And I'll put a little hardener in it. Stir it up, and I'm just going to fill these holes right here. It's a lot easier to do than trying to put Bondo on. So we'll stir it up and see if I can get you a tripod to watch this. Alright, I got me a new spreader because all the rest of them are kind of chewed up. Put a little hardener in this and just mix it up good. I've already blown this off. Unfortunately, you know, with a flat spot here, you can't really wipe your Bondo off. But I'm just gonna put this stuff in here. I don't know if that camera is showing you, but when you put it on, you can see little tiny holes in it in the surface, and then it sits there a couple seconds and the holes sort of disappear. I'm taking all of this off of here because I don't really need it there. I put quite a bit of hardener in here for what I got. And I'll just use the rest of this to cover scratches. It goes on, don't use a lot of it. Actually, that's way too much there, but it was just showing you a little way to use this stuff and save yourself some time. Just mix it up right on the area that you want. You can do the same with Bondo, but basically this putty is real thin. Well, I put a lot of hardener in it, so it's already hardened up. Get my rag, clean this thing. Anyway, that Puts a real thin coat on, and you don't have to particularly worry about having to put a lot on with, like with Bondo, you got to put quite a bit. Either that or thin it super well. And this glazing putty will work real good for just filling up little tiny stuff. Bondo, I could have done it with Bondo, but it takes quite a bit, and then I gotta sand most of it off. But this icing glazing putty works really good. It's a lot tighter than Bondo, smaller particles, and it sands much easier. It's pretty hard once it gets hard, but that should have probably knocked out 90% of the up and down on this. And basically, once I finish up my sanding, I'll just go around the whole car and just hit little tiny scratch places, and places like this little hole right here. I could do it with Bondo, fill up that whole thing, grind it down, but just one quick swipe with that glazing putty and that'll be gone. A couple little tiny marks right there. It fills up stuff like here. Again, I could fill this door up and grind the whole thing down to get rid of that one hole, and just a quick swipe with that glazing putty. And once I get that all done, I go over the whole thing with 80 grit, and that'll get me pretty smooth. And then once I put the primer on, that'll show me the rest of it. But the car is real close, about ready for primer. Glazing putty will fix just about anything that's here. I need to finish this front of the cowl with Bondo, and I've about used all that stuff. It's called Quick Grip, and apparently it's got super fine particles that make it stick easier, and it really does stick, and goes on real smooth. I'm not gonna use any other kind of plastic filler but that stuff from now on. I'm not gonna spend 150 bucks a gallon for the expensive stuff. So that's like 35 for a whole gallon. The cheap stuff at O'Reilly's was like 40 after taxes, and it was only 3/4 of a gallon. Anyway, this is on there. I'll sand this with 80 grit. No use going to the 40 right now because it's straight with a board sander. I'll just use a board and do this by hand. We'll bring you back and look at it and see what it accomplished. Well, that's all sanded down perfectly smooth. You can see where it filled it. Got a little bit of low right there. I didn't put enough on it, but the problem is there's a high spot right here. Yeah, I can feel it. Need to knock that down, but you can kind of see where it's shiny, where the glazing putty is. It's a lot finer grain surface than the Bondo. You can feel it, probably hear it. You get over here where the Bondo is, you can hear more of a grinding noise, but it's quite a bit thinner. Like I said, it's really not to fill anything up. I've got a high right across here, a couple of them here. These are all right. I can feel them, but I should take my body hammer to that and straighten this out. At least get rid of that high, and then put some more Bondo on it. This side is good. Still oil can a little, but only reason I'm spending time on this is what you're going to be looking at over the windshield all the time, and I know a dent will drive me crazy, or a lump. Anyway, I'll pound this down, work on this a little more. But and by the way, up in here where I put this filler, you could almost paint it a little 80 grit. A couple seconds of sanding, you could paint that. So USC icing works good. Well, good morning, YouTube. Goal today is to get this in primer. I'm going around and just board sanding everything that is a little rough. I started working on this little door here. I've got it pretty much flush across there. I gotta clean it up and do some more, but got the trunk pretty good. Got this side pretty good. The door's not bad. I need a little in here. This is all pretty good. Got this hood straight. I had a high spot right there. I knocked it down, put a little fill on it. Basically, I've got quite a bit of little stuff to do. I took my little burr wheel and what do you call those things? Anyway, I've cleaned this up a little. I'll have to do some hand sanding and clean it up. Clean up the front of this a little better. It's going to take most of the day to board sand this down. I've got enough Bondo left to probably straighten it all up. I'll try to get everything I can with a 40 grit on a board, and then I'll go over it with the 80 grit on a DA. Try to patch my little places, clean up what I can. Anyway, I'm gonna finish up this door here. Press on. Now there's my little door. I managed to get it open and knocked a couple pieces of the Bondo out because the door, it just broke it loose. So I finished it up, and I don't have much of my Bondo left. Maybe a ½ inch in that can, an inch. And I realized I was going to run out day before yesterday. So I ordered some more day before yesterday. Hang on a second, let me get this unboxed. And I ordered it from National Tool Warehouse on eBay. And here it is. A day and a half later. I didn't even get to finish up my Bondo, so I got a new fresh can here. Only took a day and a half to get here, so I'm pretty pleased with that. Well, there's a little door done. It's got a few places in it, but I got the top to match good. Got a nice curve to it. Got a tight little gap around it. I need to take that lock out of there and work on it a bit more. But man, I spent at least a couple hours already on that thing. So working my way around. This part's all about ready for primer. I'm going to fill this door up a little right here. Not much left in here. Clean up my door gap. This all pretty good. Little sanding. I worked on this. I got it pretty decently matching. I need a little bit of Bondo on it. I'll do that when I do this top piece. The hood's all good to go. I didn't really work on this top any. So that's my next steps. Try to get that all covered. Get the front of this howl covered. Make sure that it's straight. And I'll cover the top of this here and get the top of this door as well. So here's the next step. Mr. Door, and try to move on to the cowl. I may not finish today. It's already about 3:30, 4 o'clock. Well, some people might do this different than me. Just the way I had found good success. And I've got this all covered now. All of the metal is covered with a thin layer of body putty. I'm going to sand it down, and the minute that I hit any kind of steel or anything, I'll quit. The reason why is because once you hit the metal, that's a high spot. If you sand any more around it, it's going to stick up. So what I try to do is put a thin coat of Bondo on there. Bad Chad describes it as that you fill the ocean floor, and when you hit the metal, you see the ocean floor. But it don't take long to knock this down, particularly with 40 grit. And then you have a surface that you can alter a little bit if it's not in the metal. Once you go down to the metal, that's it. You can't grind that metal down or sand it and get any kind of a surface. You have to get a smooth surface on your body filler. See, I've got some pretty heavy 40 grit scratches in here, but I was hitting the metal in a couple places. You can't get real close in the corners like this, so this I have to be hand sanded. Got a little more right here, again hand sanded, and of course this corner I couldn't quite get it, but if you don't put a lot of pressure, if you can go two ways with a sander, you won't get so many of these big scratches like this, because these are pretty big. But the thing is that I've got 95% of this is still in still covered with the plastic filler. Now I can hand sand this and get all the corners, and this should clean this up pretty good, and then all I really have to do is just hit it with a 80 grit DA. So let me hand sand these corners. You can see down in there there's quite a bit, and we'll see what it looks like after that. Well, these corners are cleaned up now. I just took a little folded piece of paper, and a little right here I missed, and just hand sanded it out. It probably took me as long to do this one little corner as it did to machine sand the whole thing. So there's the corners clean. Now I'll probably put some thinner filler on here, but when I do, I'll put some tape on this so I don't fill my corner up again. I'll just go ahead and hit this with an 80 grit on a DA, and we'll see what it looks like. Well, I'm going to get after it with the DA here. Now that DA took almost everything out of here. I can still see some little tiny scratches. Got a little pinhole. But the thing is that these scratches are not going into the metal. Just a skim coat, a filler, or a glazing putty, probably primer will cover most of this up. But it took all these 40 grit scratches out of here. I believe that was probably 40 on the DA. But it's not going like a file to put this kind of marks in it. It's going in a circle, so it cuts pretty smooth and it feels good. Nothing is going into the metal. When you start sanding it, the minute you see a high spot like this one right here, the minute you see metal, quit, because you won't do anything except to cut the Bondo down around the metal and leave yourself even worse high spot. So this basically is ready for primer. I don't know how good this primer is. It's an epoxy. I'll go over this again with some glazing putty before I primer it, and just pick up little stuff like this. I can actually feel there's a low spot right there. But basically this section now is ready to throw some paint on it. The other side, now I didn't hand sand these corners first, so I got some corner stuff going on, but you can see it took everything out. Right there's a high spot, so I could have sanded this down some more, but that high spot isn't going to go, and all I do is make it worse. Same thing here, I got a high spot. Probably could have sanded that a little more, but like I said, if I sand it any more, I'll put a low in it. So right now, both of these panels are as straight as can be expected, and basically they're ready to just do a little touch up with glazing putty. I went over this, I believe that was a 80 grit on that, or 40 grit on that DA. I was still cutting stuff down, but I'll put a sheet of 80 on it after I get through glazing putty the little tiny stuff that I got, and I'll try to sand the whole thing down with 80 grit. And maybe tomorrow, well, sure tomorrow, I gotta sand that too. Tomorrow I'll get it in primer. I didn't think I was going to be able to get it all done today, because a lot of this stuff, like these little corners, you know, it takes almost as much time to clean that corner out as it does to do this whole panel. So I'll continue picking up these little details, but it's starting to look real good overall. You know, it's all real straight and square. Don't have any scratches in it really. My little door turned out real nice here. I gotta take that lock out and fix that, or Bondo that up. But all this rear end is pretty good. I got just a little bit left here on the back. My sides are good. So for sure tomorrow I'll get this whole thing in primer, and then we'll really see a lot of bad stuff. But it looks good like it is. So like and subscribe, guys. We'll press on, and hopefully tomorrow we'll get you in primer.